let's just watch the time for all the witnesses.
And if you want to cut him off and censor him some more, you're welcome to do it.
Oh, that's not my job. That's your job. Why don't you threaten a witness so that they can not want to be a witness?
Mr. Kennedy is recognized for his opening statement. We'll give him 5 minutes, more or less, and then we'll move to the next one.
Contentious. You watched it, hopefully, right here on Newsmax. I know I did. Division right at the start of today's big tech censorship hearing. Jim Jordan's Weaponization Committee hearing testimony came from 4 witnesses, including 2024 presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Kennedy firing back at critics of his campaign who he says are trying to silence him. Listen.
YouTube deplatformed me. I didn't talk about vaccines in that speech. I didn't talk about anything that was a verboten subject. I just was talking about my campaign and things, the conversation that we ought to be having with each other as Americans. But I was shut down, and that is why the First Amendment's important. Debate, congenial, respectful debate is the fertilizer, it's the water, it's the sunlight for our democracy.
So here's the thing. He's been taking heat for comments that he made last week saying that COVID-19 was, quote, targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. He also went on to say that the people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. Kennedy says that he meant to express his belief that the United States and other governments were developing, according to Kennedy, ethnically targeted bioweapons, citing a 2021 study on genetic susceptibility to COVID-19 as, he says, proof of concept that such bioweapons could be created.
That was happening today and also yesterday. A lot of reaction from that explosive whistleblower testimony. The 2 IRS whistleblowers investigated the Biden family finances, Hunter Biden's tax issues. They spoke for hours on the Hill. Gary Shapley and Joe Ziegler, whistleblower X, we all met him yesterday, say that the DOJ improperly interfered with their tax investigation into President Biden's son Hunter and actually stopped them from pursuing any leads into President Biden himself. Here are some of their statements.
Based on my experience, I'm here to tell you that the Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office and Department of Justice handling the Hunter Biden tax investigation was very different from any other case in my 14 years at the IRS.
There was an environment when we were interviewing witnesses where you were afraid to ask questions that could lead to the presidential campaign. And this is after the campaign's over.
This case was presented to 2 presidentially appointed U.S. attorneys in D.C. and California. That no charges were brought in those districts tells you everything that you need to know.
It appeared to me, based on what I experienced, that the U.S. attorney in Delaware in our investigation was constantly hamstrung, limited, and marginalized by DOJ officials as well as other U.S. attorneys.
In this country, we believe in the rule of law, and that applies to everyone. There should not be a 2-track justice system depending on who you are and who you're connected to.
I've recently discovered that people are saying that I must be more credible because I'm a Democrat who happens to be married to a man. I'm no more credible than this man sitting next to me due to my sexual orientation or my political beliefs. The truth is, my credibility comes today from my job experience with the IRS and my intimate knowledge of the agency's standard and procedures.
All right, joining us now to talk about this and also the breaking news from Senator Chuck Grassley releasing a FBI record alleging VP Biden at the time formed bribery scheme. Let's bring in now Dave Rubin, host of the Rubin Report and a best-selling author. Dave, welcome in on a very busy breaking news day.
Holy cow, you know, some days you got to stretch a little bit for the news. Today is not one of those days.
Yeah, no, for sure. Moments ago, Grassley released this 1023. I think we have it and we can scroll through it. Obviously, this was a record that they wanted to get for years. It was an unclassified document, Dave. They met in the SCIF. They almost held Ray in contempt of Congress not to get it, but now they have it and it's out. Some of the things, the key section, it doesn't sound good for the Bidens. One is the source talking that Burisma should hire some normal U.S. oil and gas advisors because the Bidens have no experience with that business sector. It's confusing because we now know financial records show they were paid millions of dollars, and also talking about U.S. election results. No doubt this is more damning information in the alleged influence peddling against our sitting president, who they say was then vice president and accepted a bribery, possibly $5 million. So just your reaction to where this could be going now and some of the facts here that are being revealed.
Right. Well, I mean, basically, it's not surprising. I'm seeing this on the fly just as you are. But if you just think back to everything we've learned in this last, 2+ years related to Hunter Biden's laptop, the censorship of that laptop on Twitter and a bunch of the other social media platforms, the fact that Hunter Biden was getting, I believe it was $83,000 a month to be an analyst at Burisma, a Ukrainian energy company that he had no business being. And the only reason he had that job, he had no qualifications to have that job, other than the fact that his dad was VP Joe Biden at the time and might be able to help deals get through. And now it does seem that payments were made to the Biden family related to all of that. So I would say, in essence, we're just getting more teeth to what many of us have long thought there was something to. And also, when you look back on the censorship of all this, it makes you wonder who knew that all of this stuff was true to begin with.
Well, this was an unclassified document. The FBI didn't want them to see it. I think we also have video of Joe Biden right now. He's in Philadelphia again. He's there to talk Bidenomics, but obviously this will be a question that will come up. They'll probably refer to, Ian Sams or, KJP will do some pushback at the podium. Also in this 1023, there's also talk about that prosecutor has been fired. There's video of former President Biden formally talking about having somebody fired and having him fired. So there's going to be stuff that comes back. I want to also get your reaction, though, about what went down yesterday. We just showed some of the whistleblowers. Marjorie Taylor Greene, pretty effective. Some say she was, too explicit, but really getting to the heart of some of these write-offs that Hunter Biden had used for escorts, a payment, which was supposed to be a golf club membership, which was actually a sex club. I want to play this exchange for you here.
Talking about Hunter Biden using his company, Owasco PC, to pay prostitutes. This is also a suspicious activity report showing that victim one, the woman that was paid for prostitution that traveled from California to Washington, D.C., paid for by Hunter Biden. This is an excerpt from a SARS report that we've read in the Treasury, and I think you all have looked at these too, showing that victim one was supposedly an employee of Owasco. But I would like to point out, this is not really what most paralegals do.
No. Yet next week, the Hunter Biden tax plea deal is set to go forward, Dave. We look at that. She also talked about the Mann Act, criminalizing transportation of women across state lines. We've talked about the FARA Act that Hunter Biden's never been charged with failing to operate as a foreign agent, though other people like Gail Luft have. I mean, all these low-lying sort of things. If your last name's, Biden, I guess you don't get napped for any of them.
Right. I often talk about the one type of privilege in America. People think it might be white privilege or male privilege, but it's actually Democrat privilege. If you are a Democrat, you can get away with all sorts of nonsense. And if you are a Republican, you cannot get away with such nonsense. Just ask a guy by the name of Donald Trump. On the explicit nature of some of the pictures that you guys had to blur out there because they were explicit, the same people who were upset about the Hunter Biden explicit pictures being shown on C-SPAN, these are the same people who want these virtually the same type of explicit pictures being put in children's books, which, of course, Ron DeSantis and many others are now getting out of schools. That's sort of a sidebar, but I would basically say well, I think it's important to note the hypocrisy when you can. But what we're really learning from these whistleblowers is that when anyone brought up anything related to the Hunter Biden laptop, to what was going on with the taxes, why was it that Hunter Biden owed millions and millions of dollars in taxes? I mean, what were his jobs? And if you say it was all because of the art that he was selling, well, we know that money laundering, art is the best way to do it because art is subjective in value. So you can, in essence, make something that is useless and worthless, but art is in the eye of the beholder. So somebody who might want to give you an awful lot of money and need to figure out a legit way to do it can do it through art.
Absolutely.
So the fact that the fact that the agents who have come forward, these whistleblowers, who, by the way, are being completely ignored by CNN and the New York Times and Washington Post and everything else, the fact that they are coming out and basically saying, hey, we tried to bring these things up. We were saying there's some problems with the Biden family here, and we were repeatedly told by the higher-ups, hey, we're just not going to look into that. That'll create too many problems. That is really what the scandal is. Whether Hunter Biden should be in jail for tax evasion or not is almost irrelevant here. It's what the agencies were doing to protect the Biden family and how high that goes.
Yeah, and effectively block leads that they would have been able to follow if it was average citizens doing the same alleged stuff. It really gets into the two-tiered justice. We talk about it all the time, but obviously so much breaking news, Dave. Really great you could be here to react to some of it. And I agree that clutching the pearls moment when they showed the photos and you talk about some of those explicit books. We've seen them, and we know they are not fit for young kids. Dave Rubin, great to see you as always. See you back here soon.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks.